Well,
or that was the foxhole one.
that was the foxhole
Yeah.
one. But
This Amateur Radio Roundtable is brought to you in part by ICOM America. All right, welcome everybody to Amateur Radio Roundtable. I'm Tom Medlin, W5KUB, and this is May 26, 2020. I have to look at the computer. Sometimes I don't even remember the year. I guess it's just, kind of getting old. Anyway, hey, we're going to have a good time tonight. We got a lot of our gang back together with us tonight. We're going to probably just talk about just a whole bunch of different things. But if you're out there listening on international shortwave tonight on 5130 kilohertz on WBCQ, if you have internet capability, you can join us. Just go to w5kub.com and you can join us and watch the show. It's kind of like a TV show, but it's amateur TV. And send us a signal report. Send us an email. Let us know where you're hearing us. You can send that email to tom@w5kub.com. We'd love to hear from you. Had a pretty good turnout on our 40-meter net tonight. Our net meets every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Central Time on 7180. Had a pretty good turnout tonight. I'd like to invite all you guys to join it if you can. And please join our Facebook group. We've got over 9,500 people in our hams. 9,500 hams in our Facebook group, and it's a great group to follow the show and see what's going on, all the activities we're doing with the show, and hey, if you're new or even old with ham radio, you can put questions in there, you can answer people's questions, put your shack pictures in there, and Katie will usually pull those shack pictures off, and we'll show them on the show. Now, if you do put shack pictures out there, be sure and put your name out there, your call, and a description of your equipment, because if you don't do that, Katie will make up things, and she's really good at making up things as far as equipment I've never heard of. So do that. All right, let's just jump right in here and kind of go around the horn here and see who all's in here with us tonight. Let me bring the remotes in, and there we go. The first person is Dave. Hey, Dave, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I am got a video up today, and am backing off a little bit from doing one every day, and maybe every other day, something like that. Did today's on the difference between AM and single sideband, and looking at waterfalls and stuff, and just enjoying the warmer weather. We're finally getting some weather here where we can get out and about, and we still have some restrictions in Colorado, but they're loosening them now, so we can start going to restaurants tomorrow.
That's good.
Looking forward to that.
Well, that's cool. You got to eat. You know that? Us hams have to eat.
Yes.
We're known for that. All right, let's see. Who else is in here with us tonight? Let's see. Glen Popiel, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How's it going?
Hey, going fine. And who's that with you?
This is Godzilla.
Godzilla. It looks like
She
Godzilla.
decided
It looks like Godzilla, believe me.
She decided to come down tonight. Normally she's sleeping this time of night, but she heard the toy. But anyway, we've just about got this house finished up from the remodeling standpoint. I've got the lab about 90% put back together, so fun stuff's fixing to happen over there.
Yeah, most of your work must be in the last 10% there.
Well, it is. Now we're down to putting back new molding and stuff like that. It's just painfully slow.
Well, all right. Well, hey, I know what it's like. We've been through remodeling ourselves here, and it is terrible, man. Terrible. We're
I
just
got my
about
kitchen finished.
we're just
finally.
about finished. Yeah. All right. Let's see, Martin. How you doing, Martin? Come in, Martin.
Oh, I'm doing good. We're pretty much back to work now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think yesterday we worked yesterday, but we had like 27 people who didn't show up for work.
Well,
I got,
now you've been working, haven't you, most during this time,
Yeah.
or have you been pretty shut
No.
down?
no, we have been open this whole time. We've been working the whole
Yeah.
time. I got a pen from Surface Go, and I'm trying to figure out what to do with it.
Well, is that like a stylus or something, or?
No, it's I mean, you can draw with it. It's got like 4,096 levels of pressure.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real pen.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So you had a few people that didn't show up today. So are you still doing okay there?
Yeah, no, we're doing fine.
That's good.
Just swamped with orders.
Well, I got an order in, and Richard's telling me my coax is on back order. So you guys just need to expedite that.
Man, we should not be. What kind of coax did you?
Oh, I just ordered some RG8X for my son down in Austin. We're trying to get his HOA radio working down there, and we're trying all kinds of things.
Well, you might want to switch it to that Italian M&P coax. We got plenty of that.
Well, is that we were looking for something small. I didn't, he's gonna have to run it out his door. I don't want anything like half inch or.
Well, I'm not sure which ones that we have, but that's premium coax.
Yeah.
It's really good stuff.
Yeah. Well, we don't really need the premium at the lower HF frequencies. I actually had plenty here, and I gave it. He was here this weekend. I gave it to him, and he took it with him. So this is just to replace my stash.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I bet you if I drove down here to see you guys, I could find a roll of coax stash somewhere back there.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah. You got stuff. You got stuff everywhere, man.
Tom, if you're gonna go, bring me with you.
All right. Well, you know what? We need to make a road trip down here maybe in the next week or two,
Good.
and you can buy Martin lunch.
Well, Obi's is open again.
Oh yeah. I don't want to go if Obi's is not open, man. If it's open, we'll come down there.
Yeah.
All
Bill,
right.
you need to come on too.
Who's that?
Bill, he's not far from us.
That's true.
You're in Huntsville, aren't you, Bill?
Yeah, I'm just south of Huntsville.
Okay.
Yeah, you need to come on over.
Yeah. All right, let's see now. Well, let me go through the list here. Let's see. We had Martin, Dave, Glenn. Let's pick up Bill here real quick. Hey, Bill, talk to us, man. What have you been doing? I've noticed lately you hadn't been on Facebook as much as you normally were.
Oh, a little thing like work gets in the way sometimes during the day. They have us teleworking yet at NASA.
I figured with NASA being a government job, you wouldn't have to work that much. Yeah.
No, we're pretty busy right now. We've got that SpaceX flight going up tomorrow, and that's pretty exciting stuff with a manned mission.
Yeah. You
And
say
what time is lunch?
I think they're looking at our time, Central Time, 3:33, but they'll be broadcasting on NASA TV starting about 12:30 Central Time. So.
Okay.
And is the launch going to be out of Florida?
Yes.
Okay, good. I didn't want it to hit our balloon when it went over.
Well, actually, KK6BJ-11
Yeah.
that launched out of Los Angeles 17 days ago now. He completed his first lap, and he popped up right right over Miami today, and he went right up the coast past Cape Kennedy. So
I would imagine that rocket might kind of disturb the air a little bit if it went by it.
yeah, he's going to get out of there before they launch, unfortunately. However, he's battling that tropical storm, and he's doing well. So he's right on top of a tropical storm and going to follow it right up the coast.
Well, wish him luck there.
I've been watching your flight that just ended for the day. The sun got a little too low, and it's right over the Grand Canyon. So you're taking the scenic tour today, Tom.
Now, does that add altitude to us when we go over the Grand Canyon?
Did it do what now?
Does that add any altitude to us when we go over the Grand Canyon?
It depends how what your reference altitude is.
Yeah, I don't know, man. All right, well. All right, we'll talk more about that a little later in the show here. Let's jump up to Rich. Rich, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, thank you. Enjoying the nice spring weather that we're finally getting here in New Jersey and New York, and
Yeah.
been spending the day working on my front porch, and still there now.
Now you're up in New Jersey, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you're up there in the epicenter of a lot of this stuff going on, man. Is it getting any better, you think?
It's getting a little better. They're loosening up some of the restrictions, but not to the extent of other places. And we're kind of worried here about some of the other places that they're doing too much too fast. And you're going to have a second wave of infections because we've really been seeing up close and personal the impact of this. Everybody here knows somebody who's been infected by it. And, my town alone, which is a town of 50,000 people, has had over 1,000 cases. So,
Wow. All right.
Wow.
So, Rich, if you will, lean a little bit to your right. A little more, yeah, because we're going to have to probably all get together before the show next week. The little side pictures down the left side of my system here was kind of covering you. Now, that's perfect right there.
okay.
Yeah. So everybody lean right. Everybody lean right on the show tonight. Well, hey, Rich, man, I hope things start getting better for you up there, and you can start getting out more. I know, down here, we feel pretty safe. I think, I feel pretty good about things right now, but I think if I was up in New York or New Jersey, I would not be one that would want to get out hardly any yet. It's just still.
We've been getting out to the parks and hiking and stuff, but the parks are open with a rule for social distancing and wearing masks. And I know some people in some parts of the country don't think that's reasonable, but here most of us do, because of the firsthand experience so many of us have had, or secondhand close in. So we're spending time. One of the other things that I do is work with my wife on a butterfly garden in our county park. So we're over there quite a bit, and we're always wearing a mask when we're out there, and where we might be talking to other people, and going to pick up takeout food and stuff like that. It's a different kind of new normal that's going to be with us for a while, I think.
I saw a doctor on TV this week from up in that area, and he said he knows he's not going to get it, and he told us why. He said, if you don't touch your face, I guess keep your distance too, but he says, if you don't touch your face, if you wash your hands and don't touch your face, he says, you will not get this. Now, I guess if you walked into somebody's sneeze, that might be a different thing,
There was an NBC reporter who was a virologist, okay, and worked for NBC, and he took a flight, and he got COVID-19.
He took what?
He had followed all the precautions. He says he thinks he got it through his eyes.
Yeah, well, yep. Touch your face, your mouth, your nose, your eyes. That's probably it. So, and I'm bad about that too. I got to really watch it. It's so easy.
Yeah, it's really tough to.
It's so
not
easy to
touch
take
your
your finger and stick it up here in your eye, and kind of,
That's right.
rub it or something. All right. Hey, well, Rich, let's talk a little about CQ for next month, man. What's
Alrighty.
coming up?
We got a great issue coming up. I mean, they're all great, of course, but
Yeah.
this one in particular, this is our annual Take It to the Field special, which I kind of put a question mark after that for this year. We've got a lot of great articles about portable operating for when you can get out there again, and it's starting to happen. But we can't avoid writing about things that are going on related to the changes in all of our lives because of this virus, and we've got stack of stuff on that as well. Starting with my editorial about unexpected heroes in our midst. You know, we talk frequently about the nurses and doctors and people like that who are doing marvelous, wonderful things every day and putting their lives on the line to do it. But you know, those parts of the economy that are still functioning right now are still functioning because our internet networks and cellular networks are functioning. You know, we hams thankfully have not been called in to cover for any of that because those have still been working. But a lot of the people who keep those networks up and running are hams and our readers, and they are as much heroes as anybody else because most of the businesses that are managing to still operate are doing it because they have solid internet connections and cellular connections and can continue to do remote working and stuff like that. So that's my editorial topic for the month. In our News Bites column, we take a look at some of the innovative approaches that different groups have been using to administer license exams, including a growing number of remote exam sessions, and how different volunteer examiner coordinators are organizing that and making it happen or not. Some of them are not doing it, but others are. Our lead feature is called Surviving COVID-19 or the Next Pandemic, How We Survived a Pandemic by Loving Ham Radio, by Jim Milner, WB2REM, who's a psychologist, and Gene Hinkle, K5PA. In our kit building column this month, Joe Eisenberg, K0NEB, writes about how he's using his 3D printer to create face shields for local first responders and frontline workers, which is a fantastic thing. And in our microcontrollers column, Anthony Lustre is writing about lockdown projects, all sorts of things you can work on while you're at home. Among our Take It to the Field articles, we've got a stack of them too. We start out with our cover story on W7L, a special event operation exploring Colorado's Seven Lakes Wilderness Area by Paul Signorelli, W0RW, who does quite a bit of pedestrian mobile operating. We go to C, or actually to the British Virgin Islands, with the reincarnation of VP2VB. That's Danny Wiles' call, for those of you who remember back in the 50s and 60s when he kind of created the one-man D-expedition sailing around the world on his 3 different boats called the Yasmi, which is the source of the Yasmi Foundation today. And that call was reissued for a D-expedition, and we've got our article on that. That's a follow-up on the initial one that we had in the May issue. We follow that up with a CQ Classic because Danny wrote about his adventures in CQ in the 50s and 60s as he sent us dispatches from wherever in the world he was. So we are republishing as part of our CQ Classic series for our 75th anniversary, the first Danny Weil article on, let's see where he's going, from St. Thomas to Panama. So that's the first one there. And then Paul W0RW comes back with a great piece on back in the day, the FCC and portable operating. You know, most of us today just take it for granted that we can take our radios in our cars or out portable operating wherever we want to. But as late as the late 70s, you had to notify the FCC if you were going to be operating away from your licensed location, And I remember sending notices to the nearest FCC field office if I was going to be operating in a different location. And but back in the 30s, they even issued special call signs for portable operating. He's got one card here from W8 Zulu Zulu Alpha Papa, a 1x4. That was what they issued for portable operating. So that's a really fun look back. W4YBV, who's also a frequent contributor, writes about activating islands in Florida as part of the U.S. Islands on the Air program. Again, once you can get out and go places again. But a lot of this is stuff you can do by yourself as well, or with a family member. So that's not really restricted. Our emergency communications column this month focuses on field day and how we can showcase our capabilities from home. We're a lot of places we're not going to be able to get together in our usual way in large groups, but we can still showcase what we can do from home and still invite public officials to come visit our operations in a socially distant manner, of course, and take advantage and use this opportunity to demonstrate our flexibility in that regard as well. In our analog adventures column, KL7AJ goes afield, and in our prop column, NW7US talks about what he anticipates the conditions to be like on field day weekend. Of course, we've got more. If you're not, we've got results of the CQDX marathon. We've got a couple of project articles. We've got an antenna, multi-band off-center fed dipoles for 160 and 80 meters, single switch station command project. Erwin Math, WA2NDM, and Math's notes writes about energy harvesting, how to get energy out of the air to power some of your stuff. A lot of us remember doing that with crystal sets, and you still can. Our QRP editor, WK8SMA, has a conversation about the true meaning of QRP. There's a discussion in email between between our former awards manager, who unfortunately is a silent key now, and one of our contest committee members about QRP, because Eddie KS4AA had written that he felt that if you put low power into a really big antenna, that it really isn't QRP, that it should be a simple antenna as well as low power. And Doug Zweibel, KR2Q, is a longtime member of the CQ Worldwide DX Committee, former contest director, and a noted QRPer, had a different perspective on that, which he shared. Unfortunately, Eddie passed away before we could go back and forth, have the back and forth in his column, so I passed all that along to Scott, KA8SMA, our QRP editor, who shares that and his own thoughts on it as well. Speaking of antennas, we've got our antennas column on the early days of antennas and the early days of CQ. WA5VJB writes that Dr. Yagi was a VHFer, and how most of his experiments were done around 6 meters. And just to keep up on that with our classics theme, he discovered, and we are reprinting, a profile of Dr. Yagi that ran in the October 1948 issue of CQ, called Japan's Daiichi Scientist, which means number one, and an interesting profile of Dr. Yagi. Speaking of VHF, we've our VHF Plus column this month on the Springtime Surprise. Really great openings down to South America from the southeastern U.S. with transequatorial propagation and a bunch of TROFO as well. And our contesting column is really cool. I kind of saved the best for last here. even if you're not into contesting, this is, if you're into antennas, this is something you should read. Dave Siddall, K3ZJ, our contesting editor, is writing about using Whisper, the weak signal propagation reporter mode that is part of the WSJT package, to do real-time antenna comparisons. He connected 2 little Whisper transmitters to different antennas and alternates transmitting between them and reads back the reports that he gets off the Whisper network, so that are no changes in propagation and other stuff that might happen even over the period of a couple of minutes if you're moving your feed line from one antenna to another and then trying again, to compare antennas. This is instantaneous feedback because they can alternate just within seconds of each other. And he's using the Whisper network for a whole new concept of things and comparing antenna performance. So really, really interesting. That's what I pulled out for highlights, and of course there's still more. So
All right, well, cool. Well, always a lot going on and a lot of interesting articles there. You mentioned...
We still have our Spring Fever subscription special going,
Yeah.
So if I've persuaded anyone that they really need to get a subscription to CQ, and I hope I have, then check out our website at www.cq-amateur-radio.com and take advantage of the special.
All right. Well, maybe
I need to do a special video about CQ magazine because I think there are an awful lot of hams who don't even know it exists. And so I'm going to do that. I'll get in touch with you. Maybe we can get on Skype or something and let my subscribers know who you are and what you do.
I'd be happy to do that with you. We've been doing it for 75 years and plan to do it for another 75 at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although maybe not with me running things at 75 years from now, but you never know.
So let me see. I'm trying to see if I can get me in the picture here with you guys a little bit. Let me see.
You're in the picture.
There, how's that?
No,
Maybe that's a little better, right? Well, no, I don't like that.
I think you've been shelved there.
I don't like that. Let me go with this one here. I don't like that one either. Let me go with this one here. There we go. I'm gonna go with this one, and I'm just gonna shrink a little bit, and I'll put myself over here to the side a little bit, right about.
Going into a Land of the Giants episode.
Right about there. Hey, yeah. Hey, well, great, Rich, about CQ, and hopefully there's people on here that are hearing what you've got coming up and are getting interested, and maybe we'll get some more subscriptions out there. Hey, one thing you talked about a minute ago, and I saw it kind of light up in the chat room, you talked about mobile operation many years ago and how it was much more difficult, and someone mentioned even a power supply. And Martin, you can jump in here too. Back in the 50s and 60s, tell us about the power supply we had to use in a mobile rig.
Oh, man,
Vibrator supplies, yes.
Well, maybe even before the vibrators, or,
Well, one of the things for the receiver, they used converters to convert to the broadcast band radio. Then they took a tube out or used an adapter and used the power that was generated within that broadcast band radio to power a really low power transmitter. You used to see articles at 160 meters, 80 meters, running 5 to 10 watts.
Well, I never knew that part. Now, and I think Rich mentioned the vibrator. Of course, the car radios in the 50s and 60s had that vibrator in there that made and broke the 12 volts, into that transformer, and it created the high voltage. But I was thinking even more of that. I even got involved in some, I guess, dynamotors.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was,
I don't remember what the Heath kit did, but the HW101 had a mobile supply,
Yeah.
I don't think it was vibrator. I think it was
Well-
actually an early inverter style.
It was transistors. It had some transistors in it. Yeah.
Oh, that was modern times.
Yeah.
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 I
So
had
I'm
a
getting.
used
I'm going back to the dynamotor now.
I had a
Martin, have
dynamo-
you ever used a dynamotor?
Oh yeah,
They're common World War II surplus.
Yeah.
dynamo makes a big whir sound, and it'll
Man, they were loud. They were loud. Hey, Rich, that was very interesting about that Whisper article. You know, at first I thought you were talking about whiskey nets.
Oh,
Martin, you've been on lockdown too long.
Well, I tell you, I've not been a whisper person in all my 57 years until I started getting into ballooning there with Bill and others. And a whisper really does a major job for these balloon launches to be able to take a little 10 milliwatt transmitter, a 10 milliwatt transmitter the size of a postage stamp, and transmit a signal 9,000 miles from Middle East to Australia, and tell you where the balloon is.
I think it's amazing you got this going on with a postage stamp size circuit board.
Well, yeah, that's amazing too.
Got
but-
APRS and Whisper and all of that on one little itty bitty board.
Well, it doesn't have APRS. This is Whisper only, but we're doing a Whisper. Bill's got the Python script that converts the Whisper and converts the data of the second channel, and it puts it into it. We send it over to APRS, but it's amazing,
The
man.
whole concept behind Whisper and reverse beacon network really have revolutionized the ability to spot band openings. We've always said to people that even at the bottom of the sunspot cycle, there are band openings that you don't know about, and that if you just got to get on, and the propagation will find you at some point if you're persistent enough. And these programs such as Whisper and such as the reverse beacon net that basically constantly have you on the air sending out low power signals and seeing where they're going shows us when and where these openings are actually occurring, things that people might otherwise have just not even bothered having the radio on for, and missing out on great opportunities. So it's a really wonderful advancement to the technology and to our understanding of propagation.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed with a lot of these contests is you're sitting there thinking the band is dead, and then a contest pops up and the band is just absolutely crowded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we've always said the CQ Worldwide DX contest creates its own propagation. Perhaps it does, but really what's happening is that there are people there when the band openings happen, and they're taking advantage of them. It's the old story, what if you gave a party and nobody came? And the ionosphere gives us parties sometimes, but nobody's there except during contest weekends.
Well, there's been people I've seen, maybe even in CQ, but in a couple of the magazines, I've seen the hypothesis that we actually do generate our own propagation.
But Rich,
I think it's possible. Yeah.
Do you think that during a contest that so many operators are on, that they put so much energy into the ionosphere that it really does create its own propagation?
I think it's possible. It's considering the amount of solar radiation that's needed on a regular basis to get the ionosphere all charged up. I don't think that's certainly not a major contributor, but it could help. But I think that really what we're talking about is band openings that were there anyway, that just nobody knew about because they weren't on the air.
A while back, the military was doing some experiments on, I'm not sure how they were doing it. They were seeding the atmosphere to open up propagation. I don't know how that went.
And there was the HARP experiments too.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that, Dave?
Well, the HARP is up in Alaska. They had an array. It was a very large array, pointed straight up, VHF. They were looking at ionospheric heating. They'd put out megawatts up there, and they published the times of their experiments so people could listen in, and they got some pretty amazing propagation up there. They were hoping to excite the ionosphere to the point where they could simulate an aurora.
Right.
I don't think they ever got that far.
I've heard them here when they did their tests. I could hear them here in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
They're still functioning. The Air Force was the original operator of it, but then they gave it up. But the University of Alaska at Fairbanks has taken it over, and they're still doing research with it. So they're still on the air.
I want to fall back. Go ahead, Rich.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I want to fall back to the vibrator. We've been using the word, and I don't think a lot of people fully understand what a vibrator really is. And, you know, what it is, it's a relay that makes and breaks the contacts really quickly, that generates an inductive spike into a transformer, and then they rectify that out and produce kind of like a non-solid state version of a transistor inverter.
Yeah, you know.
Hey, Glenn.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Glenn, I'm glad you cleared up what a vibrator is.
Yeah. All right,
this is
guys.
a family-rated show now.
Okay. So the old vibrator that we used to pull out of the car radios, you know, it was just a little a metal cylinder, and you know what? You could take a pair of wire cutters and turn that metal back on the bottom edge. You know, it had 4 pins at the bottom, and you could turn that metal back and you could pull that cover off, and it had a foam rubber cover slid inside there to quieten it. And that's what my uncle used and taught me in a TV shop. We used that little foam cup there as a tube puller. It would fit right over a tube in a radio or TV, and it would pull out a hot tube, you know.
Well, you know, the big problem with vibrators were the contacts.
Yeah.
They would arc.
Yeah.
You know, I remember reading an article in a mobile handbook. CQ had a really good, I think they had 2 mobile handbooks. This was back in the 50s. And ARRL had some mobile handbooks, but one of the articles wrote about 80 meters versus 160 meters. And surprisingly, the signal on 160 meters using ground wave, you could talk further.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that to be pretty amazing. I mean, given how inefficient the antennas were.
Yeah. All right, hey, everybody, just stand by a second. We'll be back in this discussion in just a minute here. New year, new savings. Bring in a new year loud and clear with some of ICOM's most innovative products. Check out the websites for current promotions on ICOM's 7610, the 7300, and the 9700. Start the new year off with the high-performance IC7610. It is a direct sampling transceiver that will change the world's definition of a software-defined radio. It has the ability to pick out the faintest of signals, even in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. It has RF direct sampling, 110 dB REM DR, independent dual receiver, and dual digiselect. The IC7300 is changing the way entry-level HF is designed. The high-performance, innovative HF transceiver has a compact design that will far exceed your expectations. It has RF direct sampling, 15 discrete bandpass filters, a large 4.3 color touchscreen, real-time spectrum scope. The IC9700 was built with a VHF-UHF weak signal operator in mind. It has faster processors, higher input gain, higher display resolution, and a cleaner signal. ICOM's IC9700 is the pinnacle of perfection. It has a 4.3 touchscreen, dual watch operation, and full duplex operation, real-time spectrum scope, and a waterfall, voice recording and playback. Visit www.icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on ICOM radios.
LDG Electronics provides state-of-the-art antenna tuners for every amateur need. From QRP to QRO, fixed stations, portable and remote, an LDG tuner will match your radio to your antenna using our lightning-fast, proprietary tuning algorithms. LDG is a family-owned and operated company dedicated to bringing innovative, quality products to the amateur market. All LDG products carry a full 2-year warranty that is fully transferable. Support is only a phone call or email away. We're always here to help you. Visit us on the web at ldgelectronics.com.
All right, and we're back, and we've been talking about, I guess, the olden times, man. You got all us old geezers on here, and we're talking about the olden times. Is there anybody on here tonight that's not an old geezer, ham radio operator?
I'm a middle-aged geezer.
Middle-aged geezer, huh?
Yeah, middle-aged geezer. My general rig, my first general rig, was a Yaesu FT201, and it could be run either on 12 volts or on 120. And the way they switched it inside was very interesting. They had this one transformer with many, many windings.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ran it on 12 volts, there were 2 transistors that worked like a vibrator. They were just back and forth. And if you put the 110 plug, it was a Jones plug with about 8 connectors on it. And that would wire it the other way so that the transformer 120 volt winding would create the 12 volts for the tube heaters. And it was an interesting little thing. I've got an FT101 that's got the same situation in it, and I managed to blow those transistors out by wiring the connector wrong.
Boy. Well,
I'll have to find a couple switching transistors.
You know, Dave, I had a TS 820, Kenwood TS 820, very same thing. It had an optional place on the back you could buy and mount those 2 transistors. Their 12 volt accessory or whatever they called it, option. But it ran on 110 through that same plug you're talking about. Mm-hmm. You pull that, and then if you had that little accessory box on there, then if you pull that plug off, plug your 12 volt plug on there, it like you said, it matches up all the wiring in that plug to the transformer, and your transistors do the work there. And hey, I looked at that, and it was so simple. It was just 2 power transistors, and I just got me a couple of transistors and built one and put it on heat sink and screwed it on the back of the radio, and it worked.
Dave, that was your first transceiver? Was it FT201?
201. Well, I had a hot water 16 as a novice.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I got that as.
Did you build that?
I built
HW16?
HW16, yeah.
Okay.
I learned how to solder on that thing, and you could sure tell it.
Well, you're one. You really are one of the middle-aged young hams.
Yeah.
That's right. Martin, I guess with him having an HW16, he is one of the youngins, isn't he?
Absolutely, man. Anybody remember the AT1?
I actually had one. I left college with one. The ham club just gave it to me. Says, "Hey, you're a new novice. Take this." I never could make it work, and so my parents gave me a graduation present. Was an HW16.
Oh wow,
that's cool.
Mark, did you ever hear of a BCU 16? It was an old military HF amplifier that put out about 600 watts.
No.
It was in a big old Army green case and it weighed several tons. We had it at the Ohio State Radio Club. And I get on 80 meters, talk to my dad, running 600 watts with that thing. And one day I got a phone call in the radio club. Said, "Are you transmitting?" I said, "Yes." "Transmit again." So I keyed down for a second. He said, "It's you. I finally found you." And it was the physics lab at Ohio State. I was in the football stadium of Ohio State where our W8LT radio club was. We were in the bell tower. So he was about a quarter mile from me. And we were transmitting into a 600-foot long wire that was 120 feet off the ground.
Whoa.
The top of the bell tower over to the tower of the power plant. And I said, "Well, who is this?" And he says, "We're doing an absolute zero experiment and whenever you transmit, it raises the temperature of our experiment by 3 degrees. As the chamber, the vacuum chamber and the cold chamber that they had was apparently resonant on 75 meters.
Oh man. Did that use a 813 tube?
I believe it did. It was a monster. It the ham shack up real quick.
Were you on AM or CW?
We were on actually sideband, but it could do well. Actually, I think we did AM a lot. Yeah, we did a lot of skits on AM.
Okay.
And we did a lot on CW too. But so it was a great little stuff.
Well, I think me and Tom are probably have been hams for much longer than all of y'all.
Well, did you ever play with the lunchbox, the Heathkit AM 2-meter boxes?
No,
I
never,
you know what? My
I
uncle.
used one of those for years.
Let me tell you, my uncle had one. I went up to New Jersey, and we went out one night in the car out in the country, and he stuck a little halo antenna up and put that box on there, you know. I don't think we talked to anybody. I'm thinking, why in the world would anybody want one of these 2-meter thingamajiggy things? I mean, you know, back when I got my license, we didn't even know what 2 meters was.
We had we were in a bunch of us were in high school, and we all had lunch boxes, and we could talk to each other around town on them, and they were the greatest little things.
Oh,
I still have my tour sitting on my shelf in my shack,
Yeah.
and the 2 stacked Squalo antennas too, which work quite well.
I just recently bought some of those lunch boxes, but nobody down here was on 2 meters.
Yeah.
I think it really depended on, you know, whether you were in an urban area or not, and then were people into 2 meters in that area. Because I grew up in Miami, and we really didn't have a lot of people on 2 meters.
Yeah.
I grew up like Martin.
We had a good number around here.
I grew up like Martin in the Delta. I was up in Arkansas. He was down in Mississippi. I don't think there was probably a 2 meter. Martin, did you ever know about 2 meters back then? I didn't even know about 2 meters.
Well, I just read about it.
Yeah.
And what was that? The how to become a ham radio operator, some kind of book like that. You used to read about them. But that lunchbox was a pretty interesting radio. Very simple, super regenerative receiver. Yeah, really popular.
It worked pretty good.
We had them for 6 meters and 10 meters too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, probably, you know, I don't have much experience with it. I remember it, but I never had one. Hey, Martin, you know, I when I was 16, I did this. I found out how to do this, and I want to see if you ever did it. You take one of the old AC/DC radios. What do you call it? The All-American 5.
Yeah.
And there's a way you can make a few wiring changes in it and turn it into a transmitter. Did you ever do that? I remember that.
I never did that, but you know, I have bought this a few years ago. This was a SR 75, which was basically an S38 receiver from Helicrafter. Do y'all know what that is?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. But it was basically an All-American 5
Yeah.
tube radio. But this SR75 was basically an S38. There's a lunchbox.
That's
Man,
amazing.
that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Still got it.
But yeah, but that SR75 was S38, and but it was also had a transmitter built into it, and the output tube was the audio amplifier of an S38.
You know,
And it had extra tube for a crystal oscillator, and the controls were on the chassis on the back of the radio, and if you looked at it, it looked exactly like an S-38. I mean,
Yeah.
very rare.
Well, I thought about doing one of these. You know, they may have been doing something similar to what I'm talking about here. If you'll just go out and do a search on how to turn a All-American 5 into a transmitter, you'll probably find it. You will find it.
I mean, is that for a transmitter? Or
Yeah, no, it's for transmitter, and like they used
and a
that.
receiver.
They used the audio output tube, I guess, to drive it and all that stuff, you know, and the oscillator, and you actually used the tuner on it to actually tune the frequency, and you were actually transmitting with it, and you just move a few wires around on the tuning cap and a couple others, and I think you do an input, this, you know, I don't know. You actually used the speaker for the microphone. That's how simple it. That's how simple it was.
That's interesting.
I thought about doing one of those on the show one night, but I can't find an All-American 5 around anymore. They're getting scarce, you know.
Man, I tell you, those. You know, there was two versions of them. Mm-hmm. There was the I can't remember what their. I know there was a 50C5, a
35W4. Yep.
What was there? 12.
Well, I was like a 12 AV6, maybe a 12.
12 BA6.
Yep.
What was and the 12 BE6?
I think so.
All
yeah.
the filaments were in series.
Yep.
And you connected directly to
110.
110 volts. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was always in a plastic case, so you wouldn't.
You know, I didn't think about that, but they were always in a plastic case. But I tell you what, if you take a knob off of it and you touch that knob shaft, then you'll know why the plastic case was there, right?
Yeah, if you didn't plug it in right, you knew why the plastic case was there.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, Bill?
Yes, indeed. And I once made a transmitter out of an 807 tube with a TV transformer running about 600 volts. And do you know what a Fonstock clip is?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Not many people know that.
What was that? What was that?
This beautiful little clip that allowed you to put two wires together like this, and then you let loose the clip and they'd hold together. So I had this big rat's nest of high voltage wires with Fonstock clips holding together, and if I had to make sure they didn't touch each other, or it would just go kaboom. But I had a great time with that. I got out with that transmitter, a little FT 43 crystal. I had a technique of rubbing those down to change the frequency, and
you grind it down with toothpaste.
Yeah.
Or you use a pencil and
add to it,
rub on it to lower the frequency.
That's right.
Now, my first transmitter was the same thing, but I didn't have enough money to buy an 807, so I got a 1625, which was the same thing as the 807, but I used a 12-volt tube. And bought it from BA, Bernstein Appleby, out of Kansas City for 25 cents.
Oh, yeah.
Glenn is showing off his HW16.
I see that with a VFO.
Oh, there you go.
I think we all, of that era had to have an HW16. When we graduated from novice, because we were not allowed to use a VFO.
That's right.
We were in high cotton. I mean, that HG10, I borrowed one from a friend. This is not my original rig. I managed to pick this up a few years ago. But, oh my gosh, you just, had to have it.
Hey, Glenn, I got 4 HW16s now.
Oh, man.
Hey, Tom, if any of your viewers want to see what a Heathkit tour looks like, one here.
That's really wonderful.
It's
you need to dust that off there.
Yeah, I know. It's been sitting on top of a shelf.
Boy, Rich, that brings a lot of memory.
Yeah. So this is the receive control where you get the whole band at one time. Didn't really matter if you tuned it or not.
But with the chirp and all, that HW16 was just a fun radio. It was one of the few that had an automatic transmit receive switch with break-in keying.
Well, this was, yeah.
You know, all these terms that nobody will ever use and remember again.
Well, that HW16 was a real radio. I mean, it had a crystal filter in it. Before that HW16, it was like 455 kilohertz IF, and all you had was a transformer. I mean, you heard the whole band, and everything drifted like crazy.
No, that was a nice radio for a novice. I enjoyed mine.
Yeah, my first receiver was a Hallicrafters SX101A. That thing weighed 60 pounds, but it was a wonderful receiver.
Man, that was a great receiver.
And I got it at the Dayton Hamvention and had to lug it all the way from the flea market up the hill to the parking lot.
Lord.
When I was 16, and
Man.
still paying for that in my back.
Well, Mark, you can answer this.
For the trans.
My first receiver, see if anybody knows what this is, was a Night Kit Space Spanner, was a regenerative receiver.
Yep. Yep.
Y'all know what that is?
I know what it
The
is.
Night Kits.
Yeah, I never made a contact with
I was going to say it's probably not a real good receiver for making contacts, but
No, you had, when you tune a station in, and when you moved your hand away from the knob, the station would disappear.
well, Martin, I told you I made my first novice contact. I didn't really have a real receiver. I had a transistor AM shortwave receiver, shortwave band on it. It went from like 1.8 to 12 megahertz, and the ham band was about a 1/4 inch long, and the needle was about 1/8 of an inch wide, and it didn't have a BFO in it. I was on CW. It didn't have a BFO, and you know, I as I mentioned to you, I took a signal generator and beated a signal against it, and I was able to hear it. And I made a contact, man. I made a contact. A guy called me back. He was in my little town. He called me back. Didn't even know there was another ham there. But hey, I was so excited and upset. I don't think I copied the thing you said. All right. So look, hey guys, it's 9 o'clock. I want to an update where we are with the balloon and let Bill kind of give us a narrative of some of the things that he's seeing with it, right, wrong, or if we're going to make it, you know. So as people have been following us on Facebook, they've seen we launched WKUB 18 2 weeks ago, Monday. So we've been up about 16 days now. And we thought we would have been here. We thought we could have a celebration on the show tonight, but it's not here yet. It's over the Grand Canyon. But we're getting close to making it around the world with the balloon. And we've got a great crew aboard the balloon. We've got people ask me, well, how do you steer this thing? And I told them, well, we have ants. We've got 3 highly trained ants on board. And 2 years of training, and we have them on there. I got a question on Facebook today about, I took a satellite picture under the, I did a satellite picture of just of the position, you know, with the Grand Canyon below, and the guy says, has it been taking pictures all along? And, or have they been taking pictures all along? And we, of course, had to answer them. The ants are really too busy to take pictures up there, so it was a satellite picture, but we got stuck, man. It was it's been a long, difficult for me. We've gone through a couple of different things here. We have gone through weather fronts that I've never seen before. I want you to look at the front right here. This is coming into the United States, and if you look at the little top left, you can see the balloon there. And we sat out there for about 3 days, not knowing where this sucker's going. Plus, it wasn't moving. And you know, those are different models of different ways it's going to go, and that's a roller coaster. Believe me, that's a roller coaster there. So we were able.
Which one was it?
Well, I think we
blue,
ended
or
up
green?
going more straight in. After a couple of days, the weather pattern changed, didn't it, Bill? And we
It
kind of
followed the blue track pretty well, but once it got close to the coast, stopped almost down to 15, 20 miles an hour for a couple of days. So it took several days to get that last 300-400 miles to.
it was
California.
it was bad. And see, this is what it looks like. We got stuck in this thing here. You see that 10 mile an hour? Well, if you look, all those other colors, they're like 50 miles an hour and 60 miles an hour. But we got stuck in this 8 mile an hour thing. And the problem was we couldn't get out of it. Now, Bill, I noticed we weren't getting out of this, and I kept looking at Wendy, and I noticed this spot was moving with us. We were just staying in it. And I,
Well, if you're right there, you're on the other side of the world. That's Turkey.
Oh, is that in Turkey? Well, yeah, okay. That's the one we had over Egypt there, and we got stuck.
You noted that same thing over Turkey and,
Yeah.
And Egypt.
Yeah, we got stuck over Egypt for 3 days. I thought we were going to never get out of that one. We got stuck. We got stuck over outside California for about 2 or 3 days. Didn't think we were going to get over that one. So it's been an interesting ride. And our whisper worried me at times. 10 milliwatts. It has been heard as far away as 9,000 miles in Australia. But when we went across the Middle East and a few places, whisper was very few. We were afraid our transmitter was going bad or running a lot low power. Now, after we hit China and got close to the U.S., whisper has been pretty solid. So, Bill, do you think we're reduced power any? We could be.
Not at this moment. I think when you're over that region of the Middle East, there's very few whisper stations, and you have to do a molly-hop skip to get to Europe and over to China. So there's only just a couple of stations that are receiving in that region of the world. So, and some of them aren't running the best antennas. So you basically, what we had to do was to fill in the gap by logging onto websdr.org, and the other website I logged onto was sdr.hu, and there are a whole series of SDR radios, a lot of them running the Kiwi SDR radio. And basically they put them up so you can access them through the internet. So what I did was I found a good one in Kuwait, and that's a region where there really aren't many, if any, whisper stations around. And we were flying right over Kuwait City, so I was able to log in there and loop the audio. I used a free program called VB-audio, and it loops the audio from the internet that you're receiving off the website into WSJT-X, or you could also loop it into the regular standard whisper program. And there's also a new program called JTDX that you could use. But the point is, I was able to receive whisper from the other side of the world using the internet to log on to a remote SDR receiver. And we use that a lot. The next day I was using a receiver in India and Siberia to pick it up on that second day, because that's also an area where there's a big gap in coverage.
Well, I noticed
we got into China, Eastern China, and Japan. There's all kinds of whisper activity. So, and then you had a couple of days in the middle of the Pacific where there's not a lot of coverage, and we were able to use Japanese and Hawaiian remote SDRs to fill.
Yeah, I logged into the Hawaiian SDR, and it copied it pretty good. It's amazing to now looking back at how big the Pacific Ocean is, man. It's pretty big, You get out there in the center, and it's there ain't nothing out there for a couple thousand miles, any direction.
Oh yeah, and that's a really neat. Keep in mind you're only running 10 or 12 milliwatts, so that is. It doesn't take much in the way of poor propagation to just wipe that out. So,
well, after we were stuck for
multi-hop skip, that is.
After we were stuck for so long outside of California, someone in the on Facebook came up and said we were being quarantined, And we have a good team there, and the leader says, we ain't going to stop for no stinking quarantine. So we did get across there pretty good. We went near Area 51, I guess, today. Now,
Yep.
this is a really small footprint. Bill, do you think they even know what's up there?
Well, I don't know. They didn't shoot you down, so I guess you're good.
Well, Iran didn't shoot us down. Afghanistan, Iraq, none of them shot us down. But I was just wondering, I would think the U.S. might be a little better there, and going near Area 51 there,
What frequency was you transmitting on?
This is on
Standard whisper frequency of 14.0956 upper sideband.
Wow.
Yeah.
20 meters. That's
That's
pretty
20 meters.
impressive.
He's got
10 milliwatts.
Yeah.
About 12 milliwatts, and it's a magnet wire antenna. A 36 gauge magnet wire antenna.
Martin, you talk about stealth antennas. Martin, we talked stealth antennas for HOAs. This antenna on the balloon is stealth actually. It's number 30. It's number 36 magnet wire hanging.
Man, can you even see?
No, hey, if I drop it on the ground, I can't even find it. I mean, I can drop it here in the shack when I'm putting it together. And I guess my eyesight's going bad, but
is it a dipole?
Yeah, it's a vertical dipole. The
center fed or
the tracker.
Okay.
The tracker the tracker is about 17 feet below the balloon. So we got one wire going up the string 17 feet,
wow,
and we got one wire that hangs down 17 feet.
Man, that's pretty incredible. 36 gauge.
Yeah, it's pretty small. And Bill, we've been very lucky on wake up time, and it's Martin, it's solar only, so the sun has to be a certain angle before it comes awake. But
wow.
Bill, we've been pretty close to within 2 or 3 minutes of estimating when this thing's going to come alive, and we'll all get on there and start watching for it, and there it is. And there's a lot of good programs out there on the internet. For instance, here's one here called Date and Time, where you can actually put that little dot over the location there, and you can put in the time at the top, time of day, and you can
so
read.
How does that work? So it transmits at 14.096 to some whisper station.
Yep.
Then does it go to some internet site that you can log on to, or
WSJT-X program.
I see. So no matter where it is, that's where it goes to.
Yeah, you'll have.
Everybody's using that or some variant of it, and when they receive it, it automatically, as long as they're hooked to the internet with that receiver, with that computer that's hooked up to the receiver, goes directly to a server called whispernet.org, and it's collected just like APRS is collected into a big database on aprs.fi or find you. The whispernet.org is where all the whisper reports go.
I see.
So you can go on and look at their map and see who all is picking up graphically, who's picking up your transmitter. And you can also go to their database and look at the actual signal reports. So what I do is the first transmission is just basically the call sign, a 4-digit grid square, and a power field. The second transmission is using a call sign that begins with a Q, which is not a valid call sign. But since it's right after the call sign, it's within that 10-minute identifier. It's the same frequency. So we embed telemetry into the Q call and the power field on that second transmission. So I have a Python program that grabs the data from whispernet.org that people's reports funnel into, and every 10 minutes I grab that data, I decode it, and I convert it to APRS format and send it directly to the APRS server. So a whisper balloon shows up just like it was on APRS with a 6-digit grid square position, which is about a 2-by-3 mile box. If you left a 4-digit grid square, it would be a 100 by 200 mile box or so. So there's a lot going on there. I wrote the software that's using a tracker board Y03 ICT originally designed. So.
Man.
So, there's so much to do here, Martin. For instance, here, one of the sites that tracks this can actually put a prediction out there. So you can see the balloon right there.
Man.
And you can see the prediction on where there's like, what, 10 or 11 models there, and it's pretty accurate. It's going to tell you exactly where that balloon's going to be. And if you click on those dots,
bring up today's
yeah.
Track and show where it's going to go. I'll describe
Okay.
when you can complete
All
your
right,
first
all right.
nap.
Let me pull that up a minute. And you were
Man,
asking,
that's
Martin,
incredible.
who picks it up. Now, here's a whisper
Yeah.
report. There's a balloon out over the Atlantic, and look at all the people picking it up right there. And every one of those people have reported it through the internet to the Whisper site.
Wow.
So let's see. I can bring it up. What do you mean bring up APRS?
No, the tracker.habhub site.
Oh,
and
okay,
click
okay.
on the high split prediction from its
Oh,
last
yeah,
edition
okay.
today.
All right.
What do the colors mean on that high split?
They just have different colors for different, so you can discern the different stations.
Man.
If you're doing multiple bands, you can have it set up for different colors for each band. But in this case, it's just a way of discerning the different stations that have picked it up. So today's prediction from the
I'm
Grand
trying to pull
Canyon
it
is
up. I'm
go
having a
down
little.
to Texas, across New Mexico to southern Texas. Then it's going to loop up across Louisiana. And I'm predicting that you'll complete your first lap around the world 2 days from now in the morning. So Thursday morning, the 28th, at about 1300 UTC.
And it's going to keep going.
Alabama. It's going to continue up across Alabama and go right over my house at about noon on Thursday.
Man.
Is it habhub.org?
Tracker.habhub.org.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
That's
So
a long
I'm gonna bring
way
it up.
from
I'm gonna
that.
bring it up
These
right here.
18-1.
Ain't that the truth?
Let me bring it up here. Let's see.
Bill, there was an interesting question earlier, or brought a thought to my mind. When it's doing these altitude calculations, since it's deriving that from GPS, I'm assuming,
Yes.
what is it using for the actual altitude? Is it average above sea level or whatever? Because if it's over,
I have
the
it set up
Canyon-
for above mean sea level.
Okay, because I was curious, because if you're over the Grand Canyon, it should be bouncing a couple 100,000 feet or so.
Yeah.
WGS 84 altitude.
Okay. So I'm bringing up HabHub here.
And then zoom out.
Let's see where we are. So,
Okay, that's good. Now hit the high split button.
okay, all right. So that's where we are. We're over. I guess that's Colorado. So we're gonna hit the high split.
Wow.
You're over the Grand Canyon. You're over
Okay.
northern Arizona right
All
now.
right. So I'm gonna hit a high split right there, and that gives us our prediction. And then
And if you go over towards Louisiana and you click on
just
one of those balloon
Yeah.
dots, it'll tell you approximately.
we'll be there at 0300.
Well, it's going to
UTC?
follow the blue track probably.
Okay.
Go over to the right a little bit.
A right one. Okay.
Go to the right and click on one of the blue dots.
Yeah.
What determines a path? Is that like the jet stream or something?
Yeah.
The jet stream.
Okay. I see.
So
Which can get pretty squirrely this time of year. It's starting to do a lot of during the winter months. It's basically a 100 to 200 mile ride around the Earth. Now it's going to do a lot of.
so
You'll see it go over. It'll cross over your longitude in Memphis
yep.
at about 1300 or so on
So-
the 28th.
So is it right in the middle of the jet stream, or just
It's
influenced
slightly-
by it?
Pretty much right just above the peak of the jet stream, but it's
Okay. And how fast
44,000.
How fast does it move on average?
Lately, it's been only going about 20 to 30 miles an hour. There were times when it was going over 130 miles an hour during.
Okay, if it's right in the middle of the jet stream, how fast would that be going?
Well, right now, the middle of the jet stream is kind of low in that area. This is getting into the late spring, summertime wind, so the jet stream can get kind of slow. So
Slow meaning what, like 100 miles an hour?
So Martin, look at Martin. I
I
want to show you something here, Martin. Here's another tool we use. You're seeing that picture right there.
and you can get stuck in some doldrums
Yeah.
where there's hardly any winds at all in the jet stream.
So Martin, I'm looking at this picture. We're about right here where my mouse is. Okay.
Okay.
And right now I'm at ground level. The wind's at ground level. I'm gonna take the winds up to the altitude of where we are, and that's about 44,000 feet right there.
Man.
So I can go over here and click on this area about where we are here, and it's saying, well, I got it knots. I don't like knots. Let me put it in miles per hour. Okay, so if we click over here,
For a second.
I got to click it again. I don't know what 2 milliseconds. So look at there, man. I mean, there's some wind there, only
You're
5
over to the
miles an
left of
hour.
that, Tom,
The what?
you're over Oklahoma there.
Yep.
Go to the west, a little there, right there.
It says 45 there.
It's going to pick up speed tonight, so that's a good thing.
Okay. So Martin,
Like
you're asking.
45 miles an hour?
Yeah, Martin, look, you're asking about speeds. Look right here. I'm gonna click on this one right here. Look what this speed's gonna be.
Okay.
Here we go. Click. Why is it not clicking? Why is it not? 108 miles an hour right there.
Man. So it could be going that fast.
Yeah, and it's been
Or
moving.
slow.
It's been moving at 150 miles an hour quite a bit on this trip.
Man.
Oh yeah, it was falling until it hit Egypt, and then it hit the coast of California, and it decided it almost wanted to turn around.
So
Man.
these are winds, but another thing you can do with this program here, you can actually tell it to tell me where the thunderstorms are. So I don't know where the thunderstorms are. Let's see. Thunderstorms. I'm gonna turn on thunderstorms. And it didn't seem to do anything. Wait, let me turn it on. There we go. All right, my program's not responding here, but you can turn on thunderstorms, wind direction, and you can actually key in the altitude. So if we know by GPS, if we know we're at 44,000 feet, we'll just take this up to 44,000 feet, and we know our location, and we click on it. We should see where we're going and how fast we'll be moving, you know.
What site is that?
That's
This site here is called windy.com, and there's another site called ventusky.com that does similar.
that's very interesting. Hey, before I forget, will all of y'all send me an email with your address and small, medium, or large?
All right, small, medium, or large? Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to go on a diet here pretty soon. I'll probably just ask for a large.
Okay. Or extra large.
Yeah. So anyway, hey, we can't celebrate yet. We are 2 days, maybe a day and a half out of the balloon getting to Memphis, and can't really celebrate yet. We can say it if we launched it in the United States and it made it back to the United States. That's an accomplishment. And you know what I told people, for the show, this has been a real goal for the show for a long time. I mean, Bill launched our first balloon back in January of last year, and it was just a simple party balloon, and we made it to Japan, and it went down with just a single party balloon. But I figured out of 10 times.
That is so incredible.
I figured out of
That y'all
10 times. 10 times you'll make it around the Earth 1 out of 10 times, and we were on number 9, Martin. This was the 9th trip, so I was getting very confident we were going to make it. If we don't make it, if this one goes down before it gets here, we're going to launch W5KUB 19 next week, and that's the 10th time, and I think that'll do it.
Oh, that's funny. That's
Yeah.
pretty incredible, Tom. I mean, it's really unbelievable. You can put something in the air that far up, and it's just held up there with what did you say, 6 grams of hydrogen, and it goes around the world transmitting that whole time and lets us know where it is.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Done by ham radio.
Man. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well,
Man.
look at it this way, Tom. If it goes down now, you actually stand a chance of recovering it.
Well, yeah, maybe. we have recovered 2 of our balloons, Martin. We sent one trying to go around the world. I don't know, it was a couple balloons ago, and it crashed in Poland. And Bill contacted his ham friends in Poland, and they went out and found it. They actually got it down out of a tree.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, and we've got pictures.
Man.
We got pictures of the rescue.
Man.
Yeah.
Man, I can't hardly believe all this.
And then
stuff.
the next one went down in Spain. I think it's kind of a park in Spain. And Bill, I would think they could find that one.
Well, I'll try and get a hold of them now that they're not as much of a lockdown.
Yeah.
They were pretty strict about their lockdown because they had such a bad infection rate. So
Well,
no one was able to go out to chase it.
Our friend who designed the little tracker I'm flying, Edward, YO3ICT, he went out and launched one about a month ago. Went out in his front yard, stepped out in the road and launched it, and the police drove up. And he could have really got in trouble there in his own yard, and they were really interested. He asked them what it was. He explained to them what it was, and they kind of liked it, and they said, okay, no problem, and they left. But boy, he could have been charged with something, I guess.
Man.
That's because it violated quarantine in Romania.
Yeah.
Oh,
It wasn't
Man.
possible.
man, I mean, I find this so incredible. You know, and here I am still trying to copy 15 words a minute.
Well,
At least 15 words a minute, better than mine.
There was when I was in high school, Martin, I was sick for a couple of days and I couldn't get past 12 words a minute. My uncle and his friend would get on every day, and they would talk back to Florida and Ohio. But the guy in Florida would not transmit anything less than 30 words a minute.
oh man.
No matter what. I mean, you could send to him slow and he'd talk to you, but he would never slow down past 30 minutes.
Oh, man.
I'm not much of a CW guy myself, but I mean, I did do the 20 words a minute and got my extra license back many, many years ago. Martin, I probably can't do 13 right now. I mean, I could probably do 10 pretty good. I could squeak by it, maybe 13, but...
But the thing of it was,
Well,
I was for 3 days trying to get my code speed up, and I finally was able to copy him at 30 words a minute. So I transmitted back to him at 30 words a minute, and guess what? He
went up
out, but he couldn't take it.
Well, hey, it's easy
That's funny.
to
That's
dish
funny.
it out and not take it,
But
man.
you also have to remember, back in the day when we had our novice, you had to get yourself up to general or your license expired and you were out.
Right.
Yeah.
You had to push
Yeah.
to 13, and if you're going to go 13, you might as well go for the 20. Get
But
your
you know what, the code wasn't that bad because listen, I mean, we had 3, 4, 5, 6 months as a novice to practice it, and everything was. I mean, here's the procedure. RST is 599 599. You know, my address. My QTH is Memphis, Tennessee. QTH is Memphis, Tennessee. You know, and you repeat it. I mean, you got to get it, man. And even in the CW test the FCC gave me, and even at the 20 words a minute, it was pretty much that format. Now they did throw some things in there like antenna is, vertical or whatever, and so many feet above the ground. They threw a few things like that in there.
Well, the secret of all of that was they repeated it, and you knew what they were going to send anyway.
Right. Yeah.
And my dad was a radio man in the Navy and in World War II, and so taught us kids Morse code before we could actually speak full words.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
We knew Morse code pretty well when we were about 5 or 6. So we went up to, we had to go to the FCC all the way in Detroit. We had to drive 120 miles to take the exam when I first got my license. And my dad and I both went. And so he took his exam at 13 words a minute. He said, that's going to be easy. And he said, I have perfect copy, handed it to the guy, and the guy failed him. Now, the fellow was a career bureaucrat, hated his job. And he says, wherever you had a J, you put a U. And he says, that's just, my dad said, well, that's just how I do my J's. I don't put a bar over the top. I just do it quite clearly a J, it just doesn't have the bar. He says, I don't care, it looks like a U to me, so he failed.
Oh, man. Well,
So
back
a month later, and whenever there was a J, he would put a real long bar over the
Man.
Well,
J, and he said, this
you know,
guy's nuts.
to
The guy would just grumble.
Man, isn't that something?
Yeah. To pass that test, and let's see, the 13 words a minute general, you had to copy, they sent for 5 minutes. And you only had to copy you had to copy 65 straight letters. It could be anywhere in here.
One solid minute.
If you copied 65 letters straight without a mistake out of 5 minutes, you passed. And I guess the extra was, 5 times 20, but 100 characters per minute probably, I guess.
No, it was
More than
21,
that.
I believe.
It was what?
Or 20. It was 20.
Yeah, so how many letters?
20
That
words
would
a
be
20 words a minute, 5 characters.
that'd be at least 100 characters in a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's more than a character a second, man. That's buzzing along pretty good,
Yeah.
Well, the key is, we progressed from writing it on paper to starting to put things together in your head, and then to make that transition from the 13 to 20, you had to copy it all in your head, and you were copying whole words in your head rather than letters at a time.
I hear words. I don't hear individual letters. And whenever there's a movie on that has a Morse code message, I instantly hear it. And there was a cartoon that I watched. My niece and nephew were watching a Porky Pig cartoon from probably the 30s. And it was sending Morse code, and it was Porky Pig as a telegraph operator saying, the bridge is out, the bridge is out. But what it really said was, if you can copy this, send for your free Looney Tunes, your free Porky Pig pictures, autograph pictures.
Yeah.
On Schleffen, P.O. Box 27, Hollywood, California. There's no zip code. So I did for it, and they sent me back a signed Looney Tunes photo and said, we're long out of that Porky Pig photograph because that was done in 1937.
Oh, yeah.
Leon Schlesinger was the producer of all those cartoons, and he hid all the code messages in all his cartoons.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, there were 2 things back, at least when I was trying to learn Morse code, which I learned on my space spanner regenerative receiver with one hand on a tuning knob, because if I moved it, my station would disappear. But anyway, we learned it the wrong way, because everything that was published, was in dots and dashes, and they didn't teach you how to learn Morse code at 20 words a minute, but Farnsworth, where you slowed it down to 5 or 10 or 15 words a minute. And the other thing is, I started to say us, but some of the people like you, Bill, are just natural at languages, and you learned it like that. Me, I'm just barely able to speak redneck English.
You just have to know the difference between y'all and all y'all.
That's true.
But back when I learned it, I was only like 14, 15 years old. So it was easy to learn back then.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So y'all are both good at CW then.
So hey, let me pull Dave in here and ask Dave something. He's been kind of quiet the last few minutes. So hey, Dave, when you got your license back many years ago, was it a populated ham radio area, or were you kind of out alone all by yourself?
I was at Brigham Young University.
Oh, okay.
And in my senior year, decided I was going to become a ham. So I joined the ham club there. They had a very active ham club. University supported them with a TH7 up on the roof of the student union, and Drake twins, the R4 and the T4.
Oh, wow.
And, it was a very nice station. And the way I learned the Morse code was I persuaded a roommate to send to me, and he could learn to send about as fast as I could learn to receive. And so I finally got my 5 words a minute and got my novice license. And then, before that year was out, I'd graduated and gone home, and I found another novice across town in the Los Angeles area. And his signal was powerful enough to completely capture the front end of the Hot Water 16. So I figured, well, if I can't beat him, I'll join him. So I made friends with him, and we sent pages of QS to each other every evening.
Wow.
And we went down together to the Los Angeles field office of the FCC and took our tests together. And I've got to tell you, that code machine they use with the little punch paper tape and everything, that was the sweetest code I had ever heard. It was beautiful. And before they got the hams, they had a commercial operator who had to copy 25 words a minute, I think, with perfect copy, the whole thing, perfect copy. So we were all listening to that, and I was decoding that in my head. And so I had no trouble with the 13, because Randy and I were up to like 18 words a minute.
Wow.
So, and then when I went for my 20, I was working with this group called the Boulder Amateur Radio Club Junior Division, or BARC Junior. It's a bunch of youth. And they had gotten pretty far along, and there were several of the youth who had their advanced licenses. And I wasn't going to let a kid beat me to extra. So I took the extra exam. I told them I did not want to know what my grade was. They were to keep that quiet and not tell me, just whether I passed, and I passed. And then for the code, my page was gibberish, but I'd had so many CWQSOs by that point in life that I could pick out 9 out of the 10 fill in the blank answers. And so therefore passed it, and that was done.
Wow. Did you?
You've had, like you said, the code test was in the format of a QSO. So you always knew, okay, this is RST. I really got to listen to that.
Yeah.
Did you get a degree in electrical engineering, Dave?
My undergraduate degree's in math, and my master's degree is in engineering.
Okay.
And yeah, I started a little bit of PhD work, but then we moved, and I couldn't interest
I did
anybody.
my undergrad was in chemistry and biochemistry, and then I did my master's in double E.
Oh,
Wow.
switch.
Well, I have only worked for 1 year for someone else in my whole life. And that was up in Indiana and Illinois. And I got a call from one of my professors here at Mississippi State. And he wanted to know if I wanted to work on a PhD, because he had some money for me. I didn't want to work on PhD. I just wanted to come home. So I just came home and worked on it. I finished all the coursework. I didn't do the dissertation.
So you're an ABD,
Yeah.
all but dissertation.
Yeah. Now I had already started MFJ, and that's what I wanted to do because I grew up in the grocery store, and I just wanted to run some kind. I just wanted to have a ham radio grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, it's getting a little late here. We've gone a little long tonight, but we've had fun.
Past your bedtime, we know, Tom.
We've had fun tonight.
Tom, this has been great. I mean, it was just like we're sitting in a living room or a bar and just having a good time.
Yeah, we have a good time here. Ham radio we always have plenty to talk about, don't we?
Yeah. Y'all come see me, and don't forget to send me your address and small, medium, large, or extra large, or something.
Okay.
All right, we'll do that. And let me tell you, hey, we're gonna try to get some more segments going on here. I've got one guy's contacted us on Facebook. He's in a HOA and he's asking about gutters for an antenna, and I know that's not the best thing for an antenna. And people talk about, well, the connections aren't good and everything. I say try it. If it works, it works. It's better than nothing. And you know what? I'm gonna take an auto tuner, Martin. I'm gonna go outside here and I'm gonna film a little segment, and I'm gonna put an auto tuner on my gutters here, and we're gonna do that on a show one night, and show you how it might work.
Well, that'd be great. Can I make one comment about that?
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't matter how long your antenna is. If you take a dipole that's cut and it's resonant, it'll radiate almost all of it, 98, 99%. But, if you take anything, if you take a 6-foot piece of wire, if you can put the RF into it, if you can get the energy into it, it'll radiate it out.
Yep.
Now, I'll tell you a story, Martin, about when I was in Santa Barbara, at UC Santa Barbara. We were in an apartment building, and I didn't have room to put much of an antenna out the window. So I draped down a wire. I was in the second floor. I draped it down towards the ground and looped it around. It wasn't that big of a wire, but I got out. I could talk to my dad back in Ohio. But I also noticed I was getting into my neighbor stereo, and he would play that stereo all night long, playing Grateful Dead, and all I would hear through the wall was bump, bump, bump. So one night I says, I'm going to fix that. So I detuned the radio, so it was a really bad mismatch, because I had a little antenna tuner on it, so I made sure it was really badly tuned. And he would fall asleep to that, and I wait till he was asleep, and then I just put the key down. So, hey, baby, burn, and you could hear him get out of bed and start banging on the stereo.
That's funny.
I got back in bed, and then I buzzed him again. And then one day it was perfectly silent, and he said, he saw me in the hallway. He says, Bill, you're an electrical engineer. Maybe you can tell me what was wrong with my stereo. It kept going buzz, buzz, buzz. I said, well, that sounds pretty bad.
That's funny, man.
I said, what you have to do is make sure that the volume is no more than a quarter over the way up. You put the
hey, that's perfect.
It'll
that's perfect.
Well,
let me get back to what I was saying. If you get RF into something, it's going to radiate it out.
Yep.
Okay. Where all the losses is, trying to get it into that piece of wire. In other words, your tuner. That's where all the losses are. If you can take a 6-foot piece of wire and top load it or do something to it where the tuner won't have all those losses, it'll all go out.
Well,
I did something else when I was running 20-meter mobile. I had about a 50-watt rig in the car, and I was in a parking lot at a grocery store that had a speaker on the outside and speakers in the store. And I found out my voice was getting into their speaker system when I was trying to call my dad on 20 meters. So I said, attention, shoppers, T-bone steak, 10 cents a pound. Then I walk into the
That's
store
funny.
and there's all kinds of arguments going on at the meat counter.
That's funny.
But Martin brings up a good point, and that's, I think a lot of us have become obsessed with SWR and perfect power matches and everything like that. Those of us that came from the tube era, if that tube wasn't glowing blue, you didn't do it right. And it didn't matter about the match, and, these rigs today, they shut off at 3-to-1 SWR, and everybody starts obsessing about that efficiency, but it's really not that big of a loss in the grand scheme of things. And like I say, I've loaded a rain gutter at my apartment. I've loaded a chunk of 30 gauge wire that I threw out the back of my balcony across a pine tree so that I could load it. It works. Yeah, it will not give you, what a beam will give you. But if you look at, today you've got FT8, and you look at that, you're going to work the world with a 6-foot whip on FT8. It doesn't really, we're obsessing about SWR and antenna efficiency and everything. And I've always been the mindset, yes, get it as good as you can, but at some point stop obsessing, key down and go have fun.
Well, listen, I'll tell you guys, I'm going to tell you something.
People write to me and say, my SWR is 1.4 to 1. What do I do? And I say, you get on the air.
Yeah.
Well, people don't realize, let's say you start off with 100 watts and you lose half of it. You only get 50 watts. Well, you're 3 dB down. Nobody can hear the difference. I mean, one S unit is 6 dB. So if you get down from 100 watts and you lose 75 of those watts in your matching network and you're only radiating 25 watts, you only went down one S unit and you can't even hear the difference. It doesn't even matter.
Yep.
And then look at these balloons with 12 milliwatts. Come on.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Well, and I want to tell you, in closing tonight, because we got to close. In closing tonight, I don't think anybody else has ever done this, but at my other home, Martin, I had a 1980 El Camino parked in my backyard, and I took an auto tuner out there and connected it to the bumper, and I loaded up this 1980 El Camino.
You loaded your El Camino.
Yeah, because it had four good insulators on it.
Wow.
It had 4 good insulators on it. I loaded El Camino up. I talked to a guy in the state of Washington. Man. He told me my mobile was sounding good, and I said, "No, you must not be copying very good. You must not be copying very well. 'Cause I'm not running mobile. I'm running mobile for the antenna.
That's incredible. That's funny, man.
All right, guys. Look, I'm gonna get out of here. It's been nice. Watch for the balloon tomorrow. I don't know what time it's going to come up, Bill. I don't know if you've done any calculations or not. I'm guessing somewhere about 9 o'clock in the morning, plus or minus a half hour. I don't know.
Tom.
Yeah.
Next time, I'm gonna have to get me a bigger bottle of Whisper.
Okay. All right. All right.
Okay. Good night, everybody. 73.
Everybody, tune in to Balloon tomorrow morning about 8:30 to 9 o'clock. Just you can go to w5kub.com, click on the balloon button at the top, and it'll take you right to our tracking. I got 3 buttons for you to track the balloon with. Just click a button, and you'll see Whisper, you'll see APRS, you'll see Hyper, Hub, you'll see all that stuff. 73. Good night to everybody. We'll see you. We'll see you next week. All right. Good night. All right. Let's see here. I got to end it with the Glen picture again.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind.
Gotta do what?
There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.